In this video, we'll take a look at graphing lines using intercepts. And on the graph on the right here, I'm going to explain first of all why you set x equals 0 to find the y-intercept and why you set y equals 0 to find the x-intercept. So let's plot some points first of all. And these are just random points in the y-axis, but they're examples of points on the y-axis. And if you plot any other point in the y-axis, you'll find the same thing happening here. This is the point 0, 4. Remember, you start the origin. The 0 means you don't go right or left, you go up 4. This is 0, negative 1, so you don't go right or left from the origin, you go down 1. And this is 0, negative 8. You don't go right or left, you just go down 8. Notice that every single point on the y-axis that I've plotted here, all three of them, x is 0. And that's the same for any point on the y-axis. X is always 0. So to find the y-intercept, you always put 0 in the equation in place of x. Okay, so that's how you find a y-intercept. Now let's plot some points on the x-axis. And again, just three random points. I could plot any point on the x-axis I want. And these are the coordinates of the points. This is negative 10, 0, so left 10 and up or down 0. You don't go off the x-axis. This is negative 6, 0, and this would be 3, 0. And so notice that every single point on the x-axis now, y is 0. Y is 0 here, y is 0 here. So that's the characteristic of every single point on the x-axis, that the y-coordinate is always 0. So that's why you put 0 in place of y to find an x-intercept. So that's why you do what you do. Basically, to find any intercept, you're always putting 0 in place of the other variable. Okay, so for example, on the x-axis, y is 0. On the y-axis here, x was always 0. The other variable is always 0. So this is the example I'm going to plot, and let's get rid of all these points here. So 3x minus 10y plus 30 equals 0 is just a random line. There's nothing special about this line. And we're going to find the x-intercept first, and then we'll find the y. So the x-intercept, you set y equal to 0. So write your equation down, and we're going to put 0 right here. Okay, so 0 over here. Now, negative 10 times 0 is 0. So basically, when you substitute that 0 in, that part of the term, that term disappears, because negative 10 times 0 is 0. So we're really just left with 3x plus 30 equals 0. I want to isolate for x, so I could subtract 30 from both sides. You'll see some teachers will, whoops, that was not what I meant to do. Some teachers will write this kind of thing. We're going to subtract 30 from both sides. Okay, so this is what the next line, because you see those add to 0, so we now have just 3x here, and 0 minus 30 is negative 30. You'll see some teachers will write something like this. We'll bring this 30 over here, and so it becomes negative 30. Okay, they're different. Some people don't like that too much, but it really essentially is what happens when you subtract 30 from both sides. So now I isolated the 3x term. Now I want to isolate for x. So I'm going to divide out the 3. The 3 is multiplied by the x, so I want to get rid of the 3. So the opposite of multiplying by 3 is to divide 3. So we'll divide 3 out both sides. We say the 3's divide out. Basically, 3 divided by 3 is 1. That becomes just 1x. See, if we go back just a second here, to this line right here, this says 3 times the number we're trying to find is negative 30, but I want to know what the number is. That's why you divide out the 3. So x would be negative 10, so negative 10 is the x-intercept. So on the graph, we'll put a negative 10 right here on the x-axis. And now let's find the y-intercept. So to find the y-intercept, we put 0 in place of x. So write the equation down again, and now we're going to put 0 here in place of x. So 3 times 0, again, that term becomes 0 because 3 times 0 is 0. So really just have negative 10y plus 30 equals 0. Very similar to what we did over here. You could subtract 30 from both sides, and so you would next have negative 10y equals negative 30. And now it's negative 10 times the number I want to find is negative 30, so I would divide out the negative 10 to isolate for y. So these negative 10s divide out to give me just a 1y on the left, and negative 30 divided by negative 10 is 3. So we'll put a dot up here at 3 on the y-axis, right there, and then we can just draw our line between them. So that is the line 3x minus 10y plus 30 equals 0. So that's how you graph using intercepts. You put 0 in place of the other variable always. To find the x-intercept, you put 0 in place of y and solve for x. To find the y-intercept, you put 0 in place of x and solve for y. And that's the end of the video.